Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, the High Guy Jacobs, and today we're taking a look at every single rider hero in Doomsday Last Survivor. We've already gone through the infantry, we've already gone through the range, we still have leaders to look forward to, but the truth is, riders have delivered us two brand new heroes to the group that it's time for us to go through, take a detailed look at, and rank among the others. As we've done here before, we will go through all 13, and we will rank them as we go through. The first one that I go through is, my opinion, the best rider, and the last one that we go through is the one that you can probably get rid of. All of that being said, these are my opinions. They are not fact, they are opinions. Everybody's opinions on these characters and heroes is going to be entirely different. I hope you don't take that to heart, but if you do, fight me in the comments. All right, let's dive in, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into this. Now, before we do, smash the like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, fill out the notification bell, all things that cost you nothing but help out immensely. If you haven't yet, check out my TikTok. I just started a TikTok at _the_high_guy_. Meet me over there too, where you'll see some other content that I put out over there. It's all for you guys. It's all for the community, so let's check it out there. Other than that, folks, let's dive in and get into these riders and take a look at what they have to offer us. Not beasts, you dillhole. Riders. There we go. All right, folks, let me take one quick minute to thank this video's sponsor, MooTopUp.com. MooTopUp.com is a trusted third-party top-up service that provides in-game purchases and speedy results. It's fast, affordable, and they provide services to some of mobile's top games, such as Rise of Kingdoms, Lords Mobile, and even Doomsday Last Survivor. Not only that, but you can look to save up to 20% on any $100 pack coming out of Doomsday Last Survivor, and currently, in the description, you'll see the Moo Top Up official Discord, where we have a weekly giveaway going, where 2 individual players will receive 500 gold for free just for joining the Discord and joining the giveaway. So click the join button, become a member inside the Discord, follow through the rules, and get inside this giveaway. The more that we can get into it, the better, and that's what we're all trusted for. So head over to mootopup.com to get any of your top-up services now. And with that, let's get back into it. The first rider we're going to touch base with is Rick Light, the skateboard kid. Now, yes, you're going to sit here and go, oh, but he's the brand newest one, so of course he's going to be the best one. Yeah, that is kind of how it works, unfortunately, and I'm not going to even deny it. But you will notice a couple things. First and foremost, he has the attack tree, which is not the skills tree. So let's take a look at those talents. Okay, so we're getting some rage here when attacked. We're getting a little bit more, rage over here once we have that. Damage increasing. Increasing rage recovery speed. Squad counter damage. Squad basic attack damage. To increase basic attack damage. So you're not getting as much rage, but you're hitting harder with your basic attacks. And this becomes the big conversation. What does Rick Light prefer? Well, this is also why, in my opinion, in his key role positions, he might not lead. You might lead Chasey and have Rick as the counterpart, which would be your number 1 garrison, which we'll talk about here in a second. But this is also not necessarily a bad tree to run into as well. With a garrison tree, you're going to have some in garrison anyways. You're going to have some in rider squad. You're going to have a little bit in... right, you're going to have a little bit inside here. So you're getting rage here from this, you're getting rage here from this, and you're getting rage here from this. So there's ways to kind of pack it up so you're getting all 3 and still deal decent damage. And that's kind of what we're focusing on, right? But let's talk about Rick. Let's talk about his skill weapon first. Let's take a look. So we're increasing basic attack damage by 40%. When garrison basic attacks have a 20% chance to reduce enemy rage by 30%. So we're increasing basic attack damage by 40% and a rage reduction of 30%. Not 30%, just 30. Okay? That's pretty crazy for basic attacks having a 20% chance. And let's keep this in mind because remember, he does a lot when it comes to basic attacks. That's kind of his goal, right? He does a lot when it comes to basics. And we'll see what I mean here when we talk about his levels. Okay? So let's take a look at his skills and let's take a look at what they are and then we'll take a look at what they'll be. So before you transcend him, you're getting 3,300 damage for 5 seconds with his basic attacks. So his basic attacks will deal bonus $3,300 or for 3,300 damage for 5 seconds. When not in a rally, he has a 20% chance to deal an additional basic attack per turn. Which means you can technically hit this for more than 5 times in a chance. You could actually hit this for 6 times or 7 times within that 5 seconds. Right? Because you have a 20% chance to deal additional basic attacks each turn. Right? So you could actually hit this more. Which is crazy to me. And I didn't really piece that together till right now. Right? That's every basic attack has a 20% chance to deal an additional basic attack. So for 5 seconds, you anticipate 1. That means you're going to hit 6, which means you're going to be hitting for 78,000 damage. Or 17,800 damage. That's crazy. It goes up to 3,600. When not in a rally, he has a 30% chance to deal that basic attack. And those basic attacks will not trigger counterattacks from the enemy. That's kind of cheating. Free punches? That's not fair. Next, you got trick shooting. When not in a rally, for every 10 basic attacks dealt, deals basic damage to the target, or deals damage to the target at a factor of 4,000. And remember, you're getting additional basic attacks here on his main skill, which means that this is not every 10 seconds. This could be every 8 seconds, every 6 seconds, depending on how lucky you are in getting those extra basic attacks. Once it's transcended, when not in a rally, for every 10 basic attacks, the damage goes up, and you heal yourself based on 30% of the damage dealt. So now you have a continuous heal coming to help you out. It's not a big heal, but it's enough for you to be noticeable. Enough for you to be noticeable over a long fight. Okay? Next, we've got me breaking down and out of here. Next, we've got stunt skating. You're going to increase Rider Squad attack by 30% and Rider Squad damage increased by 8%. Instead, you're going to get 35% when he's transcended. You're going to get an increase of 10% to his Rider Squad damage. And then when the squad size is below 50%, Rider Squad damage increases by a further 5%. Now, for me, I'm not a big fan of the 50% or lower or the 10% chances and blah, 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 blah. But his main focus is garrison. In a garrison, you fight at less than 50% for a long portion of the fight, which means you're going to be benefiting from that 15% damage for a large majority of the fight, which means it's not actually a bad thing. It's a pretty good skill. Next, you've got freestyle, increasing Rider Squad HP by 35% and reducing damage taken from range squads by 8% when garrisoned. All of this is attached to his when he's garrisoned. So until you transcend him, he loses this entire skill when he's not garrisoned, so when he's in the field. However, once you transcend this skill, that HP comes with you all the time. Then you get the increase of the range reduction when garrisoned to an extra 2% to 10%. Okay? So you have to be careful of these skills and how they're worded, where that period is, right? Where that period point punctuation mark is. Okay? And then once you have them fully transcended, when not in a rally, basic attacks have a 20% chance to deal 1,000 damage once to up to 3 nearby enemies. This damage is affected by basic attack damage buffs. And you're getting a basic attack damage buff just from his skill, just from his super weapon. And you're getting basic attack damage buffs from within the tack tree, right? So you're getting a bunch of these other things already. You're getting basic attack damage buffs from your armaments and your equipments and stuff. So he's going to be hitting harder in that sense. Once you have it transcended when not in a rally, basic attacks still have that 20% chance. Now it's 1,200 damage to 3 enemies. This damage is affected by basic attacks, and chance increases to 100% if it's an additional basic attack, which you're getting from his basic attacks here. Okay? So he just stacks on basic attacks and skill damage based on those basic attacks. And you can see how that's going to synergize with Chasey when she increases basic attack damage. See what we're saying? So there's lots of synergy with him and Chasey and Garrison, and a little bit of synergy with him in the field, right? You can still use him in the field, which is why, in my opinion, he's probably the best rider that we've got right now. Okay? So we've gone through the attack tree, we've gone through the Rebel super weapon, we've gone through his skills. It's time to move on. Time to move on to our next hero, Rubina. Now, in my opinion, Rubina is better than Chasey simply because Rubina is better in more opportunities. She's a better rally hero and a better field hero than what Chasey is. Yeah, Chasey does run rallies. But honestly, I think now that we have Janet and, now that we have Rubina, Daryl, Chasey might still rally, but you're not going to see her in the field near as much. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that Chasey's a little bit older, and of course we'll talk about her and things like that. So I think that Rubina's a little bit better, so we're going to put her number 2 on the list, and let's run through her things. First, you got Biohazard something or other. What's it called? Biohazard Nightwalker. Increases bonus damage from hero skills by 26%. When remaining squad size is less than 50%, this effect increases by an additional 12%. So 13%. By an additional 12%? So that's 20%. That's 65% damage. When remaining squad size is less than 50%, this effect is increased by an additional 12%. 12, 20, 27, 39. So we're talking 65% bonus damage from hero skills. Woohoo! That hurts. That hurts a lot. That hurts a lot. Yeah, that hurts a lot. That's a lot of damage. Because once you see how the rest of her skills go, you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense why it's so much damage. Because here's what happens, okay? So here's what's going to happen. You're going to deal that first factor at 9,500. And then when not garrisoned, so when you're in the field or when you're in a rally, there's a 60% chance to deal bonus damage to the target 1 to 5 times at 51% or 5,100. Now multiply that by 65%, by an additional 65% because of her awakened skill. So now it's like 7,500 damage to the first target. Upwards of, I mean, that hurts a lot. That hurts a lot. Right? So when not garrison has a 60% chance to deal bonus damage to the target 1.5 times or 1 to 5 times. For each instance of this bonus damage the target takes within 5 seconds, the next bonus damage will reduce by 10% until it reaches a minimum of 40%. But you're getting a bonus 65%, so even a reduction in 40% isn't going to be enough. Now, once you ever transcended, that damage goes up. 60% chance, now it's 2 to 6 times. Will reduce by 10% still. So it just increases the damage factor by a lot, which hurts. Okay? Wolf Blood Pact, you're going to get during rallies, increasing Rider Squad HP by 34% and damage dealt to Rider Squads by 5%. When you transcend it, that Rider Squad HP becomes all the time, and then the damage to range squads is only during rallies. Okay? Now we've got War Howls. When not garrisoned, using rage skills increases own skill damage by 3%. This effect stacks up to 15 times. That's 45% skill damage. Stack that on top of all this crap. You can start to see why she's really damage heavy. This effect stacks up to 15 times. Next, when you have her transcended, when not garrison increases Rider Squad damage reduction by 5%, and using rage skills increases own skill damage by 3.5%, effect stacking up to 15 times. So this to me, and this to me is going to be a little bit weird. I have to say I did this once, read through, and I don't understand it. And because I don't have Rubina awakened, I can't test it. I'd have to ask some other people. But this to me says this. When not garrisoned, increases Rider Squad damage reduction by 5%, and using rage skill increases own damage skill. Oh, wait. No, because the way that they worded it, okay, so I think it's just a flat 5% reduction. Increases Rider Squad damage reduction by 5%. And then you get the 5% or the 3.5 times skill damage by 15 times. I was thinking for a second, okay, believe this, I was thinking for a second that the 5 times is also tied into the effect stacking 15 times. So you'd get a 75% Rider Squad damage reduction, which didn't make sense to me. Right? Didn't make sense to me. Next, you got Crimson Moon Waltz. You're going to increase the Rider Squad attack by 38%. During rallies, you're going to get a reduction, reduces damage taken when flanked by 5.5%. When flanked by more than 3 squads, reduce damage taken when flanked by an additional 3.5%. So now you're going up to 9%. And a 9% reduction in damage is nothing to gawk at. That's pretty good. Once it's transcended, you're going up to 42% for your Rider Squad attack, and then still maintaining that 9% when flanked. But you're also getting win in a rally and attacked by squads that are not garrisoned. There's a 25% chance to deal bonus damage to the squads at a factor of 2,700. Can only be triggered on the same target once every 3 seconds. But you can start to see how she doesn't like to be swarmed or attacked and wants to just be led to her rally. Right? So that's kind of some of her benefits in her defenses. Now, once you have her transcended, increases the chance. Once you have her transcended, and awakened for every 15% of squad size lost, increase Rider Squad defense by 4.5%. This effect stacks up to 6 times. So for every 15%, by the time you're down to, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90. By the time you're down to 10% left, you're up Rider Squad defense by 67.5%, which is a pretty good Rider Squad defense buff. But the part that bothers me is that it's for every 15% squad size you lose, and you get nothing without it. So you have to start losing troops before you get any benefit. However, once you have your Transcended Edition, increases the chance of triggering bonus damage with rage skills by 10%. And then for every 15%, you're getting an additional 6.5. Stacks up to 6 times. So 6 times 6 is 36 versus 6 times 4, 24. I guess I was wrong here. It's not 15. It's the other way around. This effect actually was 6 times. So 6 times 4, 24. So it's 27% Rider Squad defense. Versus here where it's 39% defense. But you can start to see why she's really good in rallies. Hits really hard. Decent sustainability. You pair her with someone like Janet who like boosts bonus damage and shit like that and just like reacts after that damage and it's just like stacks damage on damage on damage. You'll see why Chasey is not going to be the pick for rallies, I don't think, moving forward. I mean, you might still see her a little bit, but you won't see her, I think, by comparison. Okay. But that's going to roll it all up for Rubina. Next, we're going to talk about Chasey. Now, Chasey's not bad, don't get me wrong. She may be third in the superhero categories, but she's still third overall. She's still arguably the third best hero in the entire Rider Squads. Okay? She's still better than a lot of other ones. She's still one of the best garrison heroes in the game. Right? Like, she's still a really, really good garrison hero and does really well. With her Phantom Feline, basic attacks have a 30% chance to inflict charm on the enemy. And charm reduces damage dealt. Inflicting charm on the enemy. Charm reduces damage dealt by 15%. After transcending Awaken skill, basic attacks have a 100% chance to inflict charm. So you're going to inflict charm, which is a 15% damage reduction consistently. So you'll have a 15% damage reduction consistently based on Chasey, which is crazy. Right, with their basic attacks. Okay. So her first skill, Unethical Thief. Let's actually take a look at it. I can't take a look. I got to do it this way. Oh, it sucks. Okay, we're doing it the long way because I don't have her yet. Increasing basic attack damage by 290% for 5 seconds. If garrison during this time, reduce skill damage from range squad by 17.5%. So she's tankier against ranged and increase the basic attack damage by 290%. Okay? So this is why you'll see those numbers, those basic attack numbers jump when she triggers her skill. She's not dealing skill damage, she's dealing basic attack damage, which is different, right? And you'll have to understand how damage is dealt to understand that. Now, once you have her transcended, that damage jumps to 330% for 5 seconds. Okay? Reduces basic attack damage taken by 15% and skill damage from range squads by 20%. So she becomes even tankier. Next, we're going to look at her second skill, Lost in the Moonlight, increasing Rider Squad HP by 30%, reducing skill damage taken by 7.5% against squads with the remaining squad size greater than 50%. So you're reducing skill damage taken by a chunk against squads who have full stats. Now, you're still getting that HP. 30% HP is nothing to gawk at. Once you have it transcended, you're now getting 38% HP. Reduction in skill damage taken by 10% against squads with a remaining squad size greater than 5% or 50%. So you're getting an increase in the HP and an increase in the reduction in skill damage. Next, our third skill, Lashing Whip, increases basic attack damage by 46%. If inflicted with silence, has a 20% chance to deal 1 additional basic attack per turn for the duration of the effect. These basic attacks grant 20 rage. So this was kind of when Julio, was still a thing, when silencing was still a thing. Silencing isn't a big deal anymore. So this isn't going to be something you're going to see a lot of. But the basic attack damage at 46% is huge. And a 50% chance to deal additional basic attacks per turn for the duration of the silence effect. I mean, that's fine. If someone's sending a Julia at you, it's going to be just kind of your benefit. Right? And then once you have it transcended, now we're getting a basic attack and damage increase of 55%. With a 30% chance to reduce AoE damage taken by 20% for 3 seconds. Then you get the 50% chance to deal additional basic attacks per turn, with an increase in additional rage. But basic attacks having a 30% chance to reduce AoE damage taken by 20%, huge. Makes her more tanky. Right? So we're talking huge huge basic and damage and damage reduction coming from her. Okay. Next, we've got Wits and Eloquence. Increase Rider Squad attack by 32% when garrisoned. During this period, basic attacks have a 10% chance to deal damage at a factor of 1800 to up to 3 units in a fan-shaped area. This effect can be triggered only once in 6 seconds. So during your garrison period, while you're garrisoned, basic attacks have a 20% chance to deal damage to units in a fan-shaped area. It's not a lot of damage, which is kind of why she still gets swarmed out real easy. And that becomes her biggest problem. But increasing Rider Squad attack by 10% is pretty good. Then once you have her fully transcended, that Rider Squad attack comes with you all the time. When garrison, basic attacks have a 25% chance to deal damage to 1800% or 1800 to up to 3 units within range and inflict charm on them. So we're going to get more reduction. Okay. Now, when you have her awakened, increases basic attack damage dealt to target squad by 35% when its remaining squad size is less than 50%. So as you're dealing more damage, now you're going to be dealing more basic attack damage. So you can start to see how she's going to pair with Rick really nicely. Right? We've just gone through that. Now, once you have it transcended, increase basic attack damage dealt to target squad by 50% when its remaining squad size is less than 50. Phantom Feline has a 100% chance to inflict charm. Phantom Feline has a 100% chance to inflict charm. Right. That's what they're talking about. So you can still see why she's amazing. She does really, really well, but I don't think she's as good as Rick. She doesn't have as much flexibility, and I don't think she's as good as Rubina because she doesn't have as much flexibility or damage. Pretty simple, but that's going to wrap it up for these 3 super weapon heroes. Okay? Next, we're going to talk about who I think is our best non-super weapon hero, and I think that's Daryl. There's a couple of reasons for that. Daryl has a lot of play, has a lot of buff, has a lot of debuff, AoE, a lot of things like that. But he kind of just stands on his own. In the riders, there's kind of 2 avenues. You've got skill damage riders, and you got basic attack damage riders. So you got heroes like Elena, Bella, and Daryl who prioritize skill damage. And then you have heroes like Chasey. I know technically Felix does skill damage too, but it's based on his basic attacks. Like they're triggered on his basic attacks, and then they're kind of different in that sense. So you've got Chasey, Felix, Janet, or Chasey, Felix, and Rick, right? Janet's kind of like a little bit of both. She kind of plays both sides. But once you start to look at it, because this game still is so skill heavy, that's kind of why I still put a lot of value into Daryl. And once we run through his skills, you'll see what I'm talking about. So we're dealing damage up to 3 enemies in a rectangular area in front. This is a straight rectangle, not a, like this is, how do I say this? Like straight ahead of you, not flat ahead of you. Do you know what I mean? So it's running with you, not against you. So it's a, kind Kind of like Chun, you could say. It'd be kind of like Chun's damage straight ahead. Damage taken by each enemy reduces by 15% for each additional enemy target hit. Also reduces AoE damage taken by up to 3 allies by 30% for 3 seconds. So now he's going to debuff his fighters as well as friends. Okay. And 13,500 isn't a bad number. It's pretty okay. It's not great, but it's pretty okay still. Okay. Next, we've got Cold Snap, increasing, or when leading only rider squads, increases skill damage by 21% and rider squad HP by 26%. And he's only going to be leading rider squads anyway, so that makes sense. Okay. Next, we've got increasing rider squad travel speed by 21% and rider squad attack by 32%. So we're getting attack, we're getting HP, skill damage, more damage, damage reduction. Some defense at 24%. When receiving AoE damage, there's also a 50% chance to deal bonus damage to the attacker at a factor of 4,550. This effect can be triggered only once in 3 seconds. Right? So we've got defense, attack, HP, damage reduction, additional damage, AoE damage reduction, additional damage. Like, Daryl's pretty good. And then once you have him fully transcended, or fully awakened, pardon me, you get a 25% increase to your travel speed instead, 37% to your rider squad attack, with a 20% chance to deal bonus damage to the target at 1,400. So now we just have more damage. Right? So you can see why he would benefit a lot from being in the field and why he hits really hard in the field. And this is why I think he is probably our 4th best hero for the rider situation. Okay? Next, we're going to go through Janet Light. Neon Graffiti Janet Light. And we'll talk a little bit about her. She's brand new here, so of course, a little bit higher on the list specifically because of that. I think that it's kind of close between her and Daryl. I only put Daryl up higher simply because of the fact that he's got a little bit more play. Janet, to me, is kind of specific to a couple of heroes, whereas Daryl can kind of work in a lot more places. Like, Janet will shine a lot with Rick. She'll shine with Felix, Elena, things like that. But she kind of loses out if she's with Bella. She loses out if she's with Chasey. She loses out if she's with, Mai or Cynthia or Catherine. So it's kind of like one of those things. I mean, she even still kind of loses out when she's with Daryl, right? So, I mean, because Daryl does additional damage, but it's not nearly to the amount that everybody else does, right? And you'll see what I mean when we go through her skills, right? Because her skills here are as simple as this. Deals damage to the target at 14,000 and reduces the target's skill damage by 15% for 3 seconds. If your squad size is less than 50%, additionally reduce the damage of target's AoE skills by 15%. Nice. It's good for the field specifically, right? Good for the field. Good for garrison. If your squad size is less than 50%, additionally reduces the target or the damage of target's AoE skills. So that's still pretty good in garrisons too. Next, you got Frantic Graffiti. Enters the graffiti state for 5 seconds, where before the leader uses a rage skill, enters the graffiti state for 5 seconds before the leader uses a rage skill. While in this state, each time skill damage is dealt, there's a 65% chance to deal additional damage to the current target at a factor of 800. This additional damage will not trigger graffiti again. The state will expire after being triggered 5 times. So 5 times 800 is 4,000 damage. You can start to see how this starts to stack pretty ridiculously. Okay? Each time skill damage is dealt, there's a 65% chance to deal additional damage to the current target, triggering up to 5 times within that 5 seconds. Now we've got Rainbow Slide, where you're going to get an increase in Rider Squad attack by 35% and Rider Squad travel speed by 20%. Again, makes them faster, hit harder. And then we've got an increase in Rider Squad HP. When reading only Rider Squads, increases damage reduction by 10%. So we get an increase of 30% HP and a reduction of 10% damage. Okay? And then when she's awakened, you're going to get that graffiti state. But that graffiti state is going to change a little bit. While this state, each time skill damage, there's a 100% chance to deal damage at a factor of 800 and up to 2 nearby enemies for 1200. So now she gets AoE. So you're going to deal 800 to the current target and 2 targets up, 2 other nearby targets for 1200. So now she's just going to punch even harder once you have her once you have her awakened. Now you can start to see how when you pair that with someone like Rick, right? Who's got basic attacks that deal basic attacks, but they're dealing this. So every second he's increasing this, which could actually trigger again because of basic attacks, right? Triggering an additional basic attack. He has this additional one when not in a rally. For every 10 basic attacks dealt, deals damage to an additional one. So for each time that these trigger inside that 5 seconds that she is in her graffiti state, you're going to stack on more damage. So it becomes pretty insurmountable, and that's kind of why she is where she is, right? Why I think that she is right now currently probably the 5th best in the list. Okay, next it's going to bring us up to our next choice, one that I don't have as well. His name is Felix. Now Felix is a great hero, great field hero, decent in garrison, decent in rallies. He's got a lot of play, a lot of mobility. And through his skills, you'll kind of see why he still plays into where we are. Again, we're doing this basic attack, dealing bonus damage at a factor of 3,100 for 5 seconds. That's 15,000. Each basic attack will also reduce enemy skill damage by 10% for 2 seconds. So you're going to stack this, and it's going to keep stacking. Each basic attack will keep reducing. So you'll basically have them where you hit them, they've got 10%. You'll hit them again, and they'll have 20%, and they'll be stacked on that 20% consistently at reducing the enemy skill damage. Okay. Next, we've got his second skill, Steady Airflow, reducing squad travel speed. Rider squad travel speed increases by 18% and reduces counter damage taken by 44%. So faster and a reduction in counter damage taken. Counter damage, if you don't know, is where you're getting all your damage from. Counter damage is what you're getting from who you're attacking directly. Counter damage is what you're dealing to everybody where they're at. That was my bad. So it's good reduction in counter damage, and then increase in travel speed. Basic attacks have a 20% chance to increase all damage dealt to oneself by 1.8%, increases up to 18%. So basic attacks have a 20% chance to increase all damage dealt by oneself by 1.8%. So you're eventually getting an increase of 18% damage. Increases rider squad attack by 32%. When taking skill damage, increases own squad attack by an additional 16%. So you're getting 48% rider squad attack. You're getting 18% reduction in all damage dealt. You're getting 44% reduction in counter damage taken. So it's like a lot of damage specific counter stuff. And then once you have him fully transcended or fully awakened, performs an additional basic attack every 10 seconds. This basic attack grants 70 rage and will not trigger counterattacks from the enemy. Every 10 seconds. And remember, basic attacks deal bonus damage. So if he hits that extra 10 seconds, he's getting an extra punch in here. That's like 18,000 damage. It's a lot of damage. So you start to see how Felix is still a good play. He doesn't hit as much as Daryl. He doesn't hit as much as Janet, but Felix is definitely still in there. Felix Janet is going to be a huge line on the field. I think Felix Janet will still be huge, a big battle line on the field. One that I would still be kind of scared to engage with. Okay. Next, we're going to go down the list. We are currently cooking. We are on number 7, about halfway through. We are looking for Elena. There she is. Elena. Now, Elena is a little bit old. She came out with Bella, I believe. I think it was Bella and Elena around that time. Or Bella, Sven, and Elena, someone else. Jonathan, I think. I mean, she's around that runtime, so she is getting older. But as you'll see, still very, very, very relevant. First and foremost, dealing damage to the target every second for 3 seconds at a factor of 5,400. So again, we're still doing 16,200 damage. If the target is flanked, the damage increased by the target will be increased to 5,950. every second. So that becomes a lot of damage. I mean, what is that? 6, 12, 18. It's one of the hardest hitting skills for a non-super weapon hero. Okay? When receiving AoE damage, there's a 50% chance of reducing damage received by 22%. Let me rephrase. There is a 90% chance to reduce by 40%. This effect can be triggered at most once every 6 seconds. So a 90% chance of reducing damage received by 40%. Makes it pretty tanky. Next, we've got increasing Rider Squad defense by 30% and increasing damage dealt to flanked targets by 13.5%. So she likes to fight in the field, she likes to be part of it, and she likes to be in a group targeting multiple groups. Okay? High Noon, increasing basic attack damage by 30%. When rage is above 50%, basic attack damage increases to 53%. That's crazy. It's a bunch of damage. Basics. And then once she's awakened, you're going to get an additional 20% Rider Squad attack and 20% travel speed. Overall travel speed. But you can start to see she's starting to get, just like everything else, a little bit outdated. Her awakened skill isn't nearly as good as the others. The rest of her stuff isn't nearly as good as the others. So she's okay, she's good, but she's not good as the others. Which is why you start to see her falling down the list. Just like our next girl, Mai. And I have Mai farther down on the list simply because she is a collab hero and you'd have to have her in order to talk about her. If you don't have her, then you can skip this entire section. She does come with a bonus buff, increasing damage dealt to ranged squads by 5%, but damage taken from infantry squads increases by 3%. So she's kind of a glass cannon in that sense. She also does have the field battle talent tree, which means that you're probably not going to be leading with her unless you're farm hunting or chasing farmers, chasing people down in the field, things like that. She's going to be more speed oriented. But once we go through her skills, you'll see what we're talking about is still actually pretty good. Scorch damage, or deals scorch damage to up to 2 enemies in a fan-shaped area in front every second for 3 seconds at a factor of 4,500, and reduces their travel speed by 25% for 3 seconds. Okay? So you're going to get a huge reduction on the travel speed, a huge reduction on their... a huge reduction on the travel speed and a huge increase in the direct damage. Okay? Next, you've got Rider Squad HP going up by 20% and basic attack damage dealt to slow targets by 33%. And since you're increasing the damage that you're slowing them by, I mean, it makes sense. Now we've got a skill that I still can't pronounce. Rider Squad attack increases by 30% and Rider Squad travel speed increases by 15%. So again, she's pretty fast, especially when you include the field battle tree, or talent tree, which includes travel speed. Now we've got this one, increasing Rider Squad attack by 20%. After leaving a battle, increases Rider Squad travel speed by 30% for 5 seconds if the remaining squad size is above 50%. So you get a huge boost when you're leaving battle to either run away or to keep up or whatever. You're not getting away from Mai is really what it comes down to. Now, once it's awakened, increases Rider Squad attack to 30%. After leaving a battle, increases Rider Squad travel speed by 45% for 5 seconds if the remaining squad size is above 50%. So again, you're not getting away from Mai. She's really fast. But again, you have to have her. And all that she does is chase things down. She's not really good for she's not really good for fighting in long battles. She's really just good for like picking off farmers, picking off field battles, you know, picking off scroungers, picking off people who are running away, that kind of stuff. But that's, again, why she's 8th on the list. 9th on the list, the one and only, Bella. Bella, I got a soft spot in my heart for Bella, and I think that they really dropped the ball. They should have given Bella the skin. Bella, the Rubina skin that the skin that Rubina just got, I think should have gone to Bella. Bella already has the lion. Like, they really dropped the ball here, and they could have made Bella more relevant, but they didn't. They didn't. What do we got here? Deals damage to the target squad at a factor of 12,000 and a 50% chance to increase the enemy damage taken by 15% for 3 seconds. So punch to the face, 12,000. Again, we're getting low. When you see the other ones at 15,000 or more, 12,000 is not very fast. When not in a battle, Rider Squad travel speed increases by 30%, and you gain 150 rage when entering battle, but travel speed will will be reduced by 10% for 3 seconds when taking skill damage. So when she's not in battle, she's fast. When she's in battle, she's slow. When she takes a skill, she's even slower. Okay? So she's kind of annoying. Though she does hit her skill first, so it's kind of nice to get off on the right foot. Now we're going to get a 30% increase in Rider Squad attack and an increase of 24% more damage to squads with shield effects. So if she's fighting up against Ragaro, Boyd, Riven, anything like that, Bodala, she's going to have an additional more damage. 24% too is pretty good. Now we've got Savage Hunt when leading only Rider Squads. Damage increases by 15%. Increases damage dealt to target squad by 12% when its remaining squad size is less than 30%. So it's a bunch of just flat damage increase, which is nice. Don't get me wrong, it's great. This is why she's still pretty good, right? She still has value, especially if you don't have Elena or Mai or Felix leveled up, right? So she still has play, she still has value there. And then once you have her awaken, that damage does increase to 13,000, and the increase in target damage taken by 20%. So you're getting a little bit of both, which makes her a little bit more relevant. Still, 13,000 is pretty low, which is what we're starting to see as we go farther and farther down this list. Now, the bottom 4 heroes, in my opinion, are going to depend on a couple of factors. If you have the Cynthia and Catherine skin, we are going to base this ranking as if you had the Cynthia and Catherine skin. If you do not have the Cynthia and Catherine skin, Sven would be our next hero. But if you have the Cynthia and Catherine skins, I think Cynthia and Catherine, with their skins, are better than Sven. Okay? So let's talk about it. First and foremost, she's only dealing 7,800 damage and reducing the target's attack by 30% and travel speed by 30%. So she's not hitting very hard. Squad's attack by 30%, travel speed by 30%. Increased Rider Squad attack by only 25%, Rider Squad travel speed by only 12%. Yes, she's got field battle, but again, we're losing it on skill damage for speed, and we're only getting 12% travel speed. Squad's basic attacks have a 20% chance to heal lightly wounded troops at a factor of 1,200. If Catherine is in your squad, healing will be increased by 15%. So you have... 15% on 1,200 is not very much, so the increased healing effects is pretty poo-poo buckets. And you have to have Catherine here to make her work good. Now, if you have the skins, again, we'll talk about the skins because they are a little bit different. But currently, as it stands, you can see why Cynthia is not very good. Increasing Rider Squad HP by 15% and damage dealt to zombies by 30%. Well, we don't need to worry about zombies. Fuck zombies. Nobody cares about zombies, so don't worry about them. Once she's transcended, you're going to gain 50 rage after using a skill. Very, very subpar. Okay? 30% extra to damage and 15% HP. And then 50%. So we're losing a lot here. Once you check out her skill or her skin, though. Okay? We're getting her damage factor up, which is huge. Okay? So we're getting her damage factor from 7,800... we're getting your damage factor from 7,800 to 10,000. You're still getting the reduction of the squad's travel attack and travel speed. If your travel speed is greater than the enemy's travel speed, damage factor increases to 13,000. So now she's actually hitting for relevant numbers. Okay? So now she's still getting the attack reduction, skill travel or travel speed reduction, and 13,000. If you have her doing her travel speed build. Okay? Next, you've got her Stealth Strike, where we're going just squad's attack and travel speed by 12. Now we're getting 30% squad travel speed by 12%, but counterattacks have a 20% chance to increase Rider Squad travel speed by 30% for 3 seconds. So counterattacks have a 20% chance to make us faster, which will in turn boost our damage on our 1. Right? So you can see why, with her skin, she's much more relevant. Her third ability, once we compare it, all that we're getting here is a tiny healing factor here. Instead, what we're getting is a 20% chance for 20% chance to heal. If Catherine is in the squad, increase Rider Squad defense by 18% and have the healing effect increased by 15%. So we're getting additional Rider Squad defense which is kind of right where we need to make that skill relevant. They didn't do anything here, so we don't have to worry about that. But the last one they do have here is that we also have an additional heal on the end, and we are getting an additional travel speed boost. So she provides something like 70% travel speed boost or something like that. Like, what is it? 20% chance to increase by 30%. 12%, so that's 42%. 54%. Yeah, it's like 54% travel speed. She increases by 54% travel speed and then decreases you by 30%. So the chance of you having a higher travel speed are pretty good, which is why if you have the skin, it makes her much more relevant. If you don't, she's kind of poo-poo buckets. And it's very much the same with our next hero, Catherine Calamity. Now, Catherine is even worse because, of course, she was one of the original OP heroes, and she's fallen off massively. So first and foremost, you're dealing a direct damage to the target at 77. This is when she's awakened. Okay, before she gets awakened, it's 7,700 with a 50% chance of dealing bonus damage at 4,700. Now, after awaken, it's 7,700 and guaranteed 4,700. So they took away the 50%. They didn't increase her damage. They just took away the 40% or the 50% and made it 100% bonus damage. Okay, so she's only dealing 12,400. Increases Rider Squad attack by 25%, again on the low side. When Cynthia is in the squad, increases Rider Squad attack by an additional 12%. So now we are getting 37%, but you have to have Cynthia in the squad in order to get that. Increasing Rider Squad travel speed by 15% and damage dealt to zombies by 40%. Again, who cares about zombies? Squad's basic attack have a 10% chance to recover 140 rage. That's pretty good for rage regeneration. But if you look at it, these old heroes all are missing out on a bunch of things in their skills. If you look at the new heroes have attack, defense, HP, as well as a litany of things. These guys literally have one, the other, or these other things. Right? They don't have attack, defense. Right? We have attack here. We have no HP, no defense, no nothing. Just attack on this one hero. Whereas we look at Daryl, and I'll just go back and look at Daryl very quickly. He's got attack, he's got HP, and he's got defense. Right? So we start to see how they're just not able to keep up with these ones. Now, granted, if you have her skin, right? If we have the skin, it does create some things. For example, her damage spikes a little bit here. Because when you have her awakened, right? Let's just look at when she's awakened. If you have her awakened with the skin, you're going from 7,700 with a guaranteed 4,700 to 85, guaranteed 51 on the next attack with the 50% chance of triggering combo damage once at 3,600. For each time combo damage is triggered, there is a chance of triggering combo damage again. The chance of triggering combo damage decreases with the number of triggers. So she basically can go 85, 51, 36, and then a bunch more as she continues down. Okay, so it becomes a lot more damage. Much more credible, much more relevant. She still gets to 25% here when or 37% with Cynthia in here. But now we're also getting this one here where we're, instead of just going from a travel speed at 15% and 40% to zombies, we're getting travel speed at 15%, 40% to zombies, and now 30% Rider Squad HP, which is exactly what I was talking about, what she needed. So now she has attack, and she's got HP, right? She's got attack here. Now she's got HP here. And now we're getting a recovery of rage. Each time combo damage is triggered, reduces defense of the enemy target by 42%. So now we have more damage. So she's got attack, HP, reduction in enemy defense, and bonus damage. So you can start to see how with her skin, it makes her very, very credible, very relevant. Granted, not as good as the other ones, but again, that's why we're talking 10, 11, not 1 and 2. Okay? But that's going to wrap it up for the Calamity Sisters. We've only got 2 more heroes to go. Let's talk about Sven. Now, Sven actually had a little bit of a buff recently that nobody knows about. But I went through my old videos and I was informed by one of my viewers that Sven has had a buff. First and foremost, his damage factor went up. His direct damage factor used to only be 12,000, now it's 13,000. and increasing your travel speed by 50% for 5 seconds. Now, I'm not sure why that's important when he is a siege hero, a rally hero. So having 50% travel speed is kind of irrelevant, but 50% is 50%. Next, we've got gang fight, increasing rider squad attack by 20% and defense by 20%. So we're getting attack and defense, not bad. A little low on the 20% chance, or on the 20% side, but we'll see. We've got when leading only rider squads, damage taken is reduced by 15%, which is pretty good. We've got reducing damage taken by 12% during sieges, with basic attacks having a 20% chance at dealing 1,100 damage to garrison squads. So more additional damage. And then lastly, when he's awakened, he now provides an increase to skill damage by 10%, as well as the reduction in counter damage by 20%. He didn't have the skill damage previously. They added this without anybody knowing. So they increased his damage and they added the skill damage here buff without telling anybody, but it still leaves him as 12th on the list because I don't really see him with much playability. You might lead him as a co-lead in a garrison, but you're not going to fight with him on the field because he doesn't do near as well as the other ones, as the Daryls, the Janets, the Felixes, the Elenas, the Ricks, Rubinas, and Chaseys. And the only position he really does well is kind of already held up by the fact that, we don't need this slow grind mindset of a rally. We want it to be fast and damage dealing. So he kind of falls out in that sense. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about Jonathan, Wasteland Engineer, and I give him the last spot on the list because he literally is the worst. He's got one use, and that's very specific, and you'll see from his skills, okay? First and foremost, 13,750 damage to a target. If the target is a rally squad, the target's HP is reduced by 25% and counter damage is reduced by 20% for 2 seconds. So this guy is specific to hitting rallies. He is a counter rally hero. That's all he does. That's literally all he does. He doesn't fight in the field. He doesn't fight he is a counter rally hero. You will run him on counter rallies. Right? If the target is a rally squad, the target HP is reduced and counter damage is reduced. When you defeat squads, recover own HP by 11,250. This effect is triggered at once every 30 seconds. Every 20 seconds, inflict damage at 7,500 to a random target. Not bad. More damage. But again, we're talking about just to a random target. And I have to be counter-rallying in order to get a full benefit. Basic attacks have a 20% chance of reducing skill damage received by 25% for 2 seconds. If in alliance territory, it will also cause additional damage to the enemy. So again, counter-rallying, people rallying you. Okay? And then lastly, increase rider squad attack by 25%. When the remaining troops fall below 30%, squad attack increases by an additional 20%. Counter-rallying only. Counter-rallying only. Counter-rallying only. That's all he does. That's why he's the bottom. You won't use him in the field. You won't use him in garrison. You won't use him in regular rally. You will use him in a counter-rally situation only. And even in that situation, you'll probably swarm down instead. So he's got no place in the Wasteland. Sorry, Wasteland Engineer Jonathan, but you're getting the boot at number 13 on our list. Now, that's going to wrap it up for all of the rider heroes in the game, but that doesn't mean that's going to be all the information I have to give you. The last things I want to talk about are some of these top hero pairings for things like rallies and things like garrisons. Now, we've talked about all the heroes and what they do the best. Let's talk about the riders. In the riders, we've got Rubina and Janet. Is going to be an incredible rally line, right? We've already talked about Rubina. I've got Rubina up here. We've already talked about Rubina and all of her basic damage and all of her bonus damage. You pair that with Janet's bonus damage and it becomes pretty insurmountable. Chasey Rubina, because they both still have super weapons, are still going to be beneficial. You get a lot of what Chasey brings, which is her basic attack damage, and a lot of what Rubina brings, which is just her basic flat-out rally damage. You're going to see Rubina and Daryl. Again, really good. Rubina's kind of the main here because Rubina is your main rally hero. If you don't have Rubina, you're not running rider rallies. Let's be real. And then the last one that I would say for rallies is going to be Rubina and Felix. Now, you're going to ask me, well, why am I leading with Rubina in the other ones, but not leading with Rubina when it comes to Chasey? And that's literally because of this little skill right here in Chasey's tree. Okay? In the skills tree, let's just go to any skills tree. Of course, I went to the only 2 heroes that don't have it. In the skills tree, you have this skillful firepower buff, where we're going to increase the skill damage by 7.5% once you have this leveled up for 6 seconds after using a skill. So you lead with Chasey because Chasey doesn't deal skill damage. She deals basic attack damage. So having her get buffed by that 7.5% would do nothing because she doesn't deal skill damage. So if you lead with Chasey with Rubina as a secondary, you're going to buff Rubina's skill damage with the bonus buff, right? But other than that, you're going to be leading with Rubina anyways, probably just to kind of help with your sets. So you don't have to keep moving sets around from one troop hero to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay. Now for garrisons, this one's a little bit easier. Again, we're looking specifically at Chasey. If you don't have Chasey, you're not running garrisons. And you're going to run Chasey Rick. You're going to run Chasey Daryl. And you're going to run Chasey Felix. You can run Chasey Elena. You can run Chasey Janet. But they're not going to be working as well for you as what those other 3 will. Chasey Rick, Chasey Daryl, and Chasey Felix. But that will wrap it up for this Rider Hero Deep Dive. This means we've gone through the infantry, the ranged, the riders. Next, I've got leaders. And then lastly, I'm going to be doing a quick video on all the intermatching that you can get on. Whether it's some of your infantry and ranged heroes running in lines together, you name it, we'll have a long list of those to choose from as well. But folks, I appreciate you taking the time to get through this with me. It's been a long time. It's been a long one. But I hope you guys have had as much fun as I have. And if you have, smash the like button, comment down below who your favorite rider is, subscribe to the channel, fill out the notification bell, and share it with your friends. These are things that cost you nothing, but help out immensely. Now, if you want to help out the channel financially, click the join button and become a member. Get the fancy little icons. Get your name on the ending plate. All that kind of stuff. Get the bonuses. Once we start streaming, you'll even get emojis and icons. But that's all down in the past. It's all down in the future as we grow this community and grow this channel. So let's keep the grind going, folks. Love, peace, chicken grease, and until next time, stay lifted.
3, 2, 1, let's go.